Good evening, everybody. It is Steve Lookner with Agenda Free TV. Want to bring you a live update on a story. We actually started talking about this story during our earlier stream today, but a bunch more news came out about it. Some video came out, so we want to bring you the latest updates on the U.S. seizing an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela, appearing to ramp up the pressure even further on Venezuelan President Maduro. Is the U.S. going to start, doing this with other ships? Are they going to try to cut off Maduro's oil sales? What's going to happen here? So we'll have to see what happens and where this is all going. But we're going to bring you some updates, some interesting reporting coming out about this, and take your comments on the air. So you can write to me on X @Lookner, and I'll be checking the chat as well. Ross Rachel Brady, our viewer, says it's about oil. The Knight's Palace says oil, we got oil. Joe says take the oil. New World says we the pirates now. Oil prices, one of our viewers mentioned oil prices, Melody CJ. I am wondering about what's going to happen with oil prices. They went up a bit. Oil settles higher after U.S. seizes tanker off Venezuela's coast. So we'll have to see how that all plays out. What's coming next? So we'll see. We'll see. Our viewer Carlos Rodriguez says so much for, I think Carlos meant to say drill baby drill. T Buns says Venezuela has the largest oil deposits on the planet. It's never been about the drugs. All right, so let's, PA Jeeper says, I don't really think we need their oil. So let's get into it and give you the latest updates here. And thank you so much to our moderators. Janet B is moderating. Thank you, Janet. Danny James and Ruth are moderating on YouTube as well. Also, we have moderating right now Matthew Kohai 3 is moderating. Thanks, Matthew. Also on Facebook, Margaret, Riley, K. Lowry Body here. Thank you. Linda Belk, Larry, and Misha on X. So the first thing I'm going to do, before even reading you anything about this, I want to show you the video that came out. So Attorney General Bondi posted this video of the incident. So let's look at the video first, and then we'll get into all these details that are being reported. Hey, thanks to B. Earhart, our member. All right, so let's look at this. Here, I have the video. This was posted by Attorney General Bondi. So check this out. Check out this video. Let's watch this. I don't think there's sound on it. So there's the boat. Oh my gosh, and there's a helicopter. Multiple helicopters. And military people rappel down from the helicopters. Some of you have seen this, I know, but wow. Wow, guys. Look at this. Look at this. They're seizing the boat. They have, looks like long guns. Look at this. One of our viewers said, Pirates of the Caribbean. Wow. There it is. Sizable. It's a pretty big ship. Look at that. Let's watch one more time. I'm going to have to watch it one more time. Just to give you an idea of what we're talking about. I see two helicopters right there. One of our viewers said, largest ever according to Trump. Trump claimed it was the largest oil tanker ever seized. I'm not sure if that's true. Warco Sanchez says, we are the captain now. Jeffrey Singleton says, U.S. is the captain now. Drake thinks that's called stealing. Let me just see if I can quickly set this up to, okay. Can I set this up to quickly kind of just replay here? Playback. Audio, video. Hold on. Give me a moment here. I'd like to set it up so I can just talk to you while it's playing, but then I need it to automatically replay. So give me 1 sec. Let's see if I can do this here. Smart play. Gosh, there's too many options here. Oh, I think I found it. Autoplay when opened. Auto replay. Let's see if that works. Trying to see if it just automatically plays again. No. One more second. I'm going to give it one more try. If not, I'll just do it manually. I'll have to fix it after. Something with my video player got messed up, and I want to just leave it. Okay. Anyways, I'll worry about that after. I got to fix that after. But let me do this. Show it one more time. And take some comments. Oops. It's not even rewinding now. It's quite something to have this video and see the video. Has Venezuela said anything? I haven't seen any comment from the government there. It's a good question. John A. Frazier says, this seems totally nuts. Why are we doing this? What happens to the crew and tanker afterwards? I don't know. President Trump suggested that the U.S. might just take the oil. Now, given that this is off the coast of Venezuela, so this was a sanctioned tanker. It had been previously sanctioned, supposedly. But I mean, it's not just a random tanker, right? It's being done off the coast of Venezuela. So kind of seems like it's supposed to send a message to President Maduro. Here's what Attorney General Bondi had to say. She said, today the FBI, Homeland Security Investigations, and the U.S. Coast Guard, with support from the Department of War, executed a seizure warrant for a crude oil tanker that had used to transport sanctioned oil from Venezuela and Iran. For multiple years, the oil tanker has been sanctioned by the United States due to its involvement in an illicit oil shipping network supporting foreign terrorist organizations. This seizure, completed off the coast of Venezuela, was conducted safely and securely, and our investigation alongside the Department of Homeland Security to prevent the transport of sanctioned oil continues. Now, they say it had been sanctioned for years. For multiple years. But this didn't happen until now. I mean, when's the last time the U.S. did seize? I mean, maybe they seize these things all the time. I don't know when I last heard about one, but maybe this does happen. I have to look that up. I don't know that it happens I don't remember the last time this happened off the coast of Venezuela. Hold on. I got to get some background on this. Again, I don't know how much these kind of seizures actually happen. Give me 1 second here. We're going to take some comments from you. We're going to bring you some more updates. Oh, hold on. One moment here. What I'd like to do again is have this auto playing while I talk to you about it. Just try, let me give you 1 more second here. Let's see. Auto replay maybe? Might that work? Let's try this again. I'm going to try playing this again. See if it plays automatically. Won't do it. All right, not going to worry about it right now. Let's take some comments from you guys. What are you guys thinking about all this? Then I'm going to give you some other report. I'm going to show you some other reporting about this. There's some reporting that's come out about it. But let me just take a couple more comments from you guys. See your thoughts. Here again is this video, but big size, if it works. Here we go. Hold on, a bunch of comments here. Synapse Don says, wondering how close we are to a ground war with Venezuela. Evelyn in Maine believes that the last U.S. tanker seizure was in 2020. I'll have to look that up and see if I can find confirmation of that. Captain Jerry Donnelly says if you can't protect it, it's not yours. Pepito Macondo said no more free oil to China. I believe Bloomberg said today most Venezuelan oil ends up in China, but I'm going to check that as well. Scott D. Johnston says, seems very reality show on brand for this administration. Dante says, was it the Coast Guard that seized it? Well, again, I'll just tell you again what Attorney General Bondi said. She said that it was the FBI, Homeland Security investigations, and the U.S. Coast Guard, with support from the Department of War, executed a seizure warrant for a crude oil tanker, used to transport sanctioned oil from Venezuela and Iran. For multiple years, the oil tanker has been sanctioned by the United States due to its involvement in an illicit oil shipping network supporting foreign terrorist organizations, she said. This seizure, completed off the coast of Venezuela, was conducted safely and securely, and our investigation alongside the Department of Homeland Security to prevent the transport of sanctioned oil continues. Maybe we'll get some sort of more extended information on this from the State Department or the Department of Defense / Department of War or somebody. Very limited official information right now. I'm going to show you some of the reporting, though, that's come out about this. I mean, that's a pretty big ship, though, right? Look at that. That's not small. There's the ship. Mr. Bias says, I will fill my tank tomorrow. By the way, thanks to UV Lightning, our member, Jeffrey Singleton, our member, the Sparky Pilot, our member. For 19 months, thank you. The Zulgrun, thanks for being a member. Thanks, Mr. Buddy Na, who says international humanitarian law that prohibits taking resources like oil without permission, classifying such acts as pillaging a serious war crime. Now, the U.S. says this was sanctioned, this ship. Thanks, Supernove And Knox Corvus for 18 months of membership. Thanks, Rita, for being a member. Rita says, what is involved in a seizure warrant in Waters? Thank you, Aaron S. and Ewan Dude. And Paul G, thanks for the memberships. Thanks, P.A. Jeeper. P.A. Jeeper says, do you people really think, honestly believe, that the military rappels into a ship from helicopters without a serious reason to? For oil? Thanks, SVJ Ness, who thinks Venezuelan oil is expensive to refine. It's also interesting that they chose to release this video of it, right? They didn't have to. All right, I'm going to show you some more, some reporting on this, and we'll get you some more details. Hang on a moment here. What happened here? Whoa, that's really weird. What happened there? Okay. Maybe some new reporting will come out while we're on the air. That could happen too. Okay, here's an AP report. Trump says the U.S. seized an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela. We were watching him earlier talk about it. President Trump said today that the U.S. has seized an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela as tensions mount with the government of President Nicolás Maduro. Using U.S. forces to seize an oil tanker is incredibly unusual. How about that language from AP? Using U.S. forces to seize an oil tanker is incredibly unusual and marks the Trump administration's latest push to increase pressure on Maduro, says AP, who has been charged with narco-terrorism in the United States. The U.S. has built up the largest military presence in the region in decades and launched a series of deadly strikes on alleged drug smuggling boats in the Caribbean Sea and Eastern Pacific Ocean. The campaign is facing growing scrutiny from Congress. President Trump told reporters, "We've just seized a tanker on the coast of Venezuela, a large tanker, very large, largest one ever seized, actually." Later, he said it was seized for a very good reason. He did not offer additional details. When asked what would happen to the oil aboard the tanker, he said, "Well, we keep it, I guess." A U.S. official told AP the seizure was led by the U.S. Coast Guard and supported by the Navy. The official said the seizure was conducted under U.S. law enforcement authority. The Coast Guard members were taken to that ship by helicopter from the aircraft carrier USS Gerald R. Ford, the official said. The Ford is in the Caribbean Sea after arriving last month in a major show of force, joining a fleet of other warships that have been increasing pressure on Maduro. The video we were just watching, posted online by Attorney General Bondi, shows people fast roping from one of the helicopters involved in the operation as it hovers just feet from the deck. The Coast Guard members can later be seen in the video moving throughout the superstructure of the ship with their weapons drawn. Bondi wrote that for multiple years, the oil tanker has been sanctioned by the United States due to its involvement in an illicit oil shipping network supporting foreign terrorist organizations. Let's see here. Hold on a second. Hitting Venezuela's sanctioned oil business. Venezuela has the world's largest proven oil reserves, says AP, and produces about 1 million barrels a day. Locked out of global oil markets by U.S. sanctions, the state oil company sells most of its output at a steep discount to refiners in China. The transactions usually involve a complex network of shadowy intermediaries, as sanctions have scared away more established traders. Many are shell companies, registered in jurisdictions known for secrecy. The buyers deploy so-called ghost tankers that hide their location and hand off their valuable cargoes in the middle of the ocean before they reach their final destination. So, if this ship is one of these ghost tankers, is the U.S. going to seize other tankers? Are other tankers going to not want to carry the oil? Somebody said, are you sure this is oil? Well, what Pam Bondi said is it's a crude oil tanker used to transport sanctioned oil from Venezuela and Iran. So she said it was an oil tanker, and given everything she said, it sounds like it would be carrying oil. Yeah, let's do a poll. Will the U.S. seize other oil tankers near Venezuela? Yes or no? I'm going to ask you that. I mean, that obviously, if the U.S. were to cut off somehow sale of oil from Venezuela, that'd be a big dent for their economy. What did they say they produce? 1 million barrels a day they produce. Now, I'm guessing some of it's used domestically, but... let's see here. I want to show you, I asked you guys, I said, will the U.S. seize other oil tankers near Venezuela? Look what YouTube says. YouTube says 90% say yes on YouTube. Wow. How about on Twitch? I don't know that we've ever had this before. Look at this on Twitch. Oh, it was almost 100%. Before it was 100%. Now it's 90% on Twitch. Before it was 100. Brooke says there are no drugs. Some of our viewers have said that this oil is expensive to refine. Vlachi Guy says this oil is very expensive to refine. Lisa says they always wanted the oil. Also, this distracts from the Epstein grand jury release stories. Bluesy Girl says the president is smart, a money man. So most of you think that there are going to be other seizures. Right, hold on a moment here. Thanks for voting in our poll. Let me give you some more background here. President Maduro did not address the seizure during a speech before a ruling party organized demonstration in Caracas today. But he told supporters that the country is prepared to break the teeth of the North American empire if necessary. Maduro, flanked by senior officials, says AP, said only the ruling party can guarantee peace, stability, and the harmonious development of Venezuela, South America, and the Caribbean. During past negotiations, among the concessions the U.S. has made to Maduro was approval for oil giant Chevron to resume pumping and exporting Venezuelan oil. The corporation's activities in the South American country resulted in a financial lifeline for Maduro's government. Maduro has insisted the real purpose of the U.S. military operations is to force him from office. Democrats says move is about regime change. Senator Chris Van Hollen of Maryland, member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, said the U.S. seizing the oil tanker cast doubt on the administration's stated reasons for the military buildup and boat strikes in the region. Senator Van Hollen said this shows the whole cover story, that is about interdicting drugs, is a big lie. This is just one more piece of evidence that this is really about regime change by force. The seizure comes one day after the U.S. military flew a pair of fighter jets over the Gulf of Venezuela in what appeared to be the closest that warplanes had come to the South American country's airspace. Trump has said land attacks are coming soon. He's said that for months now. I believe it's months, not just weeks. I believe. I'd have to go back and double check, but I numerous weeks ago, I remember him saying it. I'm guessing it's more than a month ago. It was certainly weeks and weeks ago he started saying it. Trump has said land attacks are coming soon, but has not offered more details. It was not immediately clear today who owned the tanker or what national flag it was sailing under. I have some more reporting on that. The Coast Guard referred a request to comment for the White House. Take some comments from you guys, and then we'll give you some more reporting on this. Arlenberg says, all your tankers belong to us. Shar Career Diva says, sounds like Trump took a page out of Putin's playbook. Ma Florida says, Venezuelan oil is often considered dirty because it's a heavy, sour crude. Give me 1 second. Let me look something up here. Let me look something up. Hang on. Let's see here. Where is the source here? Where is the source? I don't know if this is true. Gemini AI says Venezuelan oil is generally more expensive and complex to refine compared to lighter, sweeter crudes. However, let me see. Maybe it says it here. Al Jazeera says that Venezuela's oil reserves are primarily in the Orinoco Belt, and that belt holds extra heavy crude oil, which is highly viscous and dense, making it harder and much more expensive to extract. Also, producing oil from this region requires advanced techniques. I don't know about the refining cost. Sounds like it's at least more expensive to extract. Take some more comments here. And while I'm taking some more comments, you know what I'm going to put on the screen for you guys? While I'm taking a few more comments here, before we get to some other reporting about this, I'm going to play this video again. I mean, come on. Look at this video, guys. Look at it. Look what happened. Game Boy says this is bully tactics. Locomotion says this will make insuring a ship in this area extremely expensive. You know, I don't know that these kind of ships even have insurance. I don't know. If these ships that are carrying allegedly sanctioned oil. By the way, thanks to SV Janus for your support, who thinks that SV Janus thinks that the U.S. is trying to prompt a reactive move that they can use to justify escalating from air action to ground presence once a triggering incident occurs. Thanks to Vlachi Guy for being a member. Thanks, Frukar Toffine, for your support. who says Donnie is enamored with dictators, loves power. This is Monroe Doctrine rebranded. Thanks to Walter Beasley, who thinks it's ridiculous and the U.S. looks weak. Thanks, Captain Jerry Donnelly. Is it on marine traffic? You know, I saw, that's interesting, Captain Jerry Donnelly. Is it there? I'm going to look. Stacking Oz's, thanks for your support. Who says peace through strength against people who can't fight back. That's what Stacking Oz says. Thank you, Bill Jack, and also Dolores Wilson, our member, and Lady Butterfly. Yeah, I had reposted on my X account some reporting about this ship. I want to mention it again. Thanks to Massachusetts Mike and oops. I was playing that. Massachusetts Mike, thanks for subscribing. Fruit Cartoffine, thanks for your support on Twitch. Penolta, thanks for your support on Twitch. Jazzy Renee for subscribing. CC for your support. Tander62 for subscribing. Arizona Toaster for subscribing. So, according to the New York Times reported that this ship is called the Skipper, and it was carrying Venezuelan oil from a state-owned oil company. And the Times said it was sailing under the flag of another Latin American nation in which it was not registered. Also, they said it was ultimately heading to Asia. So Captain Jerry Donnelly mentioned marine traffic. Can you see the Skipper on marine traffic? Marine traffic, by the way, is, what is the way to describe it? Hold on. It's a ship tracking and marine analytics site. Hold on, I'm going to tell you the exact. Where is this? Give me a moment. I need to look this up. Then I'm going to check the site. 1 second here. Marine traffic is a ship tracking and maritime analytics provider. Marinetraffic.com. Am I logged in over here? Let me log in. All right, so here we are. We're at marine traffic. You'll see it in a second. As soon as the login works. The login seems to be stuck. Might have to hit refresh. So they seem to be having, the site seems to be having an issue. I'm going to try it without logging in, because I can't log in. Skipper, crude oil tanker. Okay. Ah, it is there. Well, we'll see. View on map. Okay, so you can see here, this says the Skipper. Is this the ship? That is near Venezuela. What is this thing? Okay. So there is, you can see that it says Skipper, crude oil tanker. Is it Guyana flagged? I don't even know. Now, it says, I don't know how recent that track, 7 minutes ago, tracked 7 minutes ago. And it says that, hold on, try and get this on the screen again here. You're not seeing it. Trying to get it up here so you can see it. There you go. There it is. It says, underway using engine, received 8 minutes ago. This is from marinetraffic.com. And you can see it's off the coast of Venezuela, because there's Venezuela right there, and there it is right there. Maybe like a 150 miles or so off the coast or something. Yes, it is like flight radar for ships. Flight radar 24 ships, Storm Laughter. That's a good analogy. But it is now in custody of the U.S. So I don't know if the U.S. is driving it or if the U.S. is maybe sitting there on board telling the crew where to take it. But it is moving at 8 knots. I believe that's it, according to the reporting. There, skipper. Interesting. Was past track going to work? Ah, so there's past track. When was this? I don't know if we can see this. I'm not a full subscriber, so I don't have I have limited functionality. Anyways, you can go look it up on marinetraffic.com. All right, interesting. According to Marine Traffic, that ship is flagged in Guyana, which is right next to Venezuela. I don't know if, but I don't know. I don't know. You know, one article said it was flagged but not registered where it was flagged. It is about 330 meters long and 60 meters wide. It is a crude oil tanker. Let me give you some other reporting I've seen. So, hang on a moment here. Hang on a moment here. We're going to show you some other reporting as well. All right, hold on a moment here. Oh, I got the autoplay to work. Yay. All right. So look, while you're watching this video here of that the U.S. government released of the actual seizing of the ship, let me also tell you what CBS News is reporting about this. CBS News has some reporting about this incident. So CBS News says that the tanker's called the Skipper, right? So CBS News has that the tanker's called the Skipper. And they say that the operation to seize it started around 6 a.m., that the operation involved 2 helicopters. You can see 2 helicopters in this video at the start. 10 Coast Guard members, 10 Marines, and Special Operations Forces. And the skipper had just left port in Venezuela when it was seized. Okay, so again, according to CBS News, there were 2 helicopters, 10 Coast Guard members, 10 Marines, and Special Operations Forces. The boat had just left Venezuela when it was seized. Multiple outlets, including CBS, say that the helicopters launched from the USS Gerald Ford aircraft carrier. Also, CBS News claims the boarding team was made up from the Coast Guard's Maritime Security and Response Team, which is an elite maritime interdiction unit based in Chesapeake, Virginia. Also, CBS News said this ship was sanctioned in 2022 by the U.S. Treasury Department for alleged ties to Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps and Hezbollah, and it was sailing under a different name, Adisa. Oh, CBS News also says the Trump administration is considering more missions similar to this one. How about that? Hang on 1 second here. 1 second here. Let's see. Rex says, our viewer, of course, it started with smaller boats, now oil tankers soon land. Eric Zimmerman says, double down WTF. Ion Industries says, let's go. Andrew Peterson says, is Trump like a warlord now or something? It really is striking. I mean, just to see this. When's the last time you saw a video like this with U.S. forces? I don't know when the last time I saw something like this was. It's quite something. Frukartofine says, more coming from the Department of War. I mean, it's sort of reminiscent. The last couple years, like during the war in Gaza, when Somalia was seizing boats, they would release videos sort of like this, showing, I believe, helicopters sometime flying to boats and people with guns taking the boat over. I'm not saying they're equivalent situations, but there's been a number of those I've seen in recent years. Sandy D says, shock and awe. West Wendigo says, typical U.S. behavior. Peace Nola says, propaganda. Xenodermis says there's probably drugs on board. Now, the U.S. government hasn't said anything about drugs being on board. Thank you, Hairball. Hairball says, if this oil was headed for China, are we going to see a reprisal from them? It's a good question. So multiple articles said that most of the Venezuelan oil ends up being refined in China. How much of it gets there, I don't know. If China is benefiting from discount oil from Venezuela, is that something where maybe behind the scenes they would be saying to the Trump administration, don't stop the oil flow to China? Then there's a question about how it might impact oil prices. But it's a fair question about China. I'm sorry. You know what? I made a boo-boo. Dang Man said that, yes, you're right, Dang Man. Yemen was not Somalia. There have been in the past Somalian pirates, but yes, Yemen, of course, during the war in Gaza, the Houthi rebels were known for attacking ships, the Houthis. So my brain stopped working. So thank you, Dang Man, for the correction. Yeah, sorry, that was just my brain not working and me making a mistake. If you look up the skipper on marine traffic, you can find the You can find it there, I think. The Skipper on marinetraffic.com. Thanks, Ursula Anderson, for your support. Captain Jerry Donnelly says the U.S. Coast Guard's port security units are deployable special forces organized for sustained expeditionary security. According to CBS News, again, the forces that did this, thank you, Captain Jerry Donnelly. According to CBS News, the forces that did this were the Coast Guard's Maritime Security and Response Team. Thanks, Hairball1621, for your support. Also, thanks, Jasper Axelrad, who says, if this tanker is part of the Russian dark fleet, if it isn't insured, it leaves very little protection for the tanker and may not impact insurance rates. Thanks, Phobiarg, for your support. Let me show you something about oil prices, too. So, check this out. Oil settles higher after U.S. seizes tanker off Venezuela's coast. Now, CDN Roach says this will 100% raise global insurance rates for shipping. I will say this. So, insurers might think, well, for a couple things. Insurers might think that this kind of thing makes it more likely that an insured ship could be boarded. Maybe not even by the U.S. Maybe an insurer would say, oh, well, this kind of thing makes it more likely that other countries could, say, try to, or other actors could try to strike back by capturing some Western affiliated oil tanker. I don't know, but I could see, there's an argument. You could imagine a situation in which insurance companies think that this kind of activity makes incidents with with insured ships more likely, even if this wasn't insured. So Reuters says oil prices settled higher today after officials said the U.S. seized an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela, adding to concerns about immediate supplies. Brent crude futures rose 0.4%, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures rose 0.4%. The U.S. seized an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela. The officials did not name the tanker. We've been hearing other reports about that. Oil prices will likely react more sharply if the seizure is followed up by more such actions, said one oil analyst, Ed Hayden Briffett. That's interesting. Oil prices will likely react more sharply if the seizure is followed up by more such actions. That's got to be something President Trump is aware of. I mean, President Trump, we were covering last night. He started his, reportedly he's going to be doing a bunch of appearances across the country talking about lowering prices and raising paychecks, talking about affordability, although he hates the word affordability. But if he's worried about people feeling like they can't afford things, it certainly does not help with that if oil prices start going up. The tanker seizure, says Reuters, further inflames concerns about immediate supplies in a market that was already worried about movements of Venezuelan, Iranian, and Russian barrels. Ukraine has been attacking shadow fleet boats, Russian shadow fleet boats too. Yeah, I mean, look, it says it right here. A Ukrainian official earlier today said the country's sea drones had struck and disabled a tanker involved in trading Russian oil, the third such strike by Ukraine in 2 weeks. Meanwhile, a divided Federal Reserve in the U.S. Reduced its benchmark interest rate by 1/4 percentage point, as expected, which could help lift oil demand by boosting economic growth, which would be something to pressure prices to go higher. So worth watching how that all plays out. Fading light says always with the oil. Gen Xer thinks the U.S. is now no different than the Houthis. One of our viewers said, I voted for this. Brian Busick. All right, let me share some more reporting about this. There's been a bunch of reporting about this. We are bringing you live coverage of the U.S. seizing an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela today. Wow. Just want to make sure I'm not missing any updates on this. But there's some more reporting on this too I want to mention. Let's see here. Hold on one moment. Just hold on one moment. Hang on a moment here. So I mentioned that the AP article about this said using U.S. forces to seize an oil tanker is incredibly unusual. Now, there have been U.S. seizures of tankers in the past. One of our viewers, Firejack, had written about that. Now, I'm looking to try to find some details about some of these. I see some mention online. Oh, maybe it's this one. How do you get this link to open? Why won't the links open? The links won't work. That's not good. Okay, so for example, let me show you this. I'm going to show you a Department of Justice thing. Why is it saying it takes 60 seconds to refresh? Hang on a moment here. Here. So this was a press release from 2020. This says largest U.S. seizure of Iranian fuel from 4 tankers. Did they seize the tankers? This was in 2020. The Justice Department announced the successful disruption of a multi-million-dollar fuel shipment by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps that was bound for Venezuela. Those were fuel shipments from Iran. So in this case, the U.S. confiscated the cargo from 4 vessels. They didn't confiscate the vessels. But this is an example of, in 2020, the U.S. seizing Iranian fuel from 4 tankers. But that's not a case in which the vessels were seized. Anyways, that's just, I don't know the whole history of seizures. Let's see. Thanks for writing in, Firejack. I'll have to do some more reading on this later. I'm not going to spend a lot of time researching it here, but thanks, by the way, to our moderators who are here. Hold on. As we will show you the video. Yeah, today the ship was seized. Thanks to our moderators, we have moderating right now Beth Mythical, Ruth on YouTube, Janet B, Keisha Fowler. Thank you. Also on Twitch. What happened to Twitch? Hold on. I got to pull it up here. "13 Alamo, DeBears, LB Prairie Dawn, Matthew Kohai 3, and Sarah moderating there. Linda Belk, Larry, and Misha on X. Kay Lowry Body, Margaret Riley over there on Facebook. And Shannon Davis Hughes. Thank you. One of our viewers, Jim Gizmo, says, "Good thing nobody was defending the ship." Manute D'Official says, "The invasion is inevitable." James Berryman says, "I voted for this." Lebowski thinks my president is a huge embarrassing failure. Julian Stone says it's free oil. Jack says we seized an oil tanker with 0 casualties before we seized a drug boat wild. Let me give you some more reporting I saw about this. The Wall Street Journal said something very interesting. The Wall Street Journal said, this is what the Wall Street Journal reported. They said that this seizure of the tanker came shortly after. They say that the U.S. It said shortly after the Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado left Venezuela on a boat. They report that she basically snuck out of the country. You know, I thought they posted that the U.S. helped. What was the original quote from the article? Did they change it? Because I posted it. Originally, the Wall Street Journal said that... Yeah, originally the article said U.S. sneaked her out of the country. I think they may have updated her, because I cut and paste that from the article. Now the article says that the move came after she left the country on a boat. But they also say that her leaving the country, her escape, potentially gave the Trump administration an opening to take more aggressive action against the Maduro regime. I think she said she's headed to, didn't she say she's headed to Oslo to get the Nobel Peace Prize? I got to check up on that too. But anyways, again, the Wall Street Journal reported that Maria Corina Machado left Venezuela on Tuesday by boat. She snuck out, basically. They say in a secret effort to reach Norway and collect her peace prize. Yeah, she hasn't collected the prize yet. She wasn't able to be there at today's ceremony, but she has said she will go to Oslo. So I don't know if there's any connection with her leaving. You know, it's a little confusing. But the originally the Wall Street Journal article said earlier today, it said that this operation came hours after. They said originally the U.S. sneaked her out, but the current article doesn't say that it was the U.S. who sneaked her out. It says allies helped. The U.S. sneaked her out of the country, and they say that her escape potentially gave the Trump administration an opening to take more aggressive action against the Maduro regime. So what I also don't understand is, so she left to get the peace prize, but will she go back? Now, you might say, well, why would she want to go back? But the thing is, if you're her and you're leading the opposition, maybe you think you can better lead it being there and you don't want to be seen as escaping. But I don't know. Is part of her leaving getting her out before some kind of ramped up military action is going to take place? That I don't know. It's an interesting question. No injuries have been reported in this incident, by the way. I guess if one has nothing to do with the other, if she was really snuck out of Venezuela just to get the peace prize, it's quite interesting timing that it just so happened that she left the country the day before this happened. And while the U.S. is seeming to threaten more, well, certainly President Trump has threatened, attacks on land. Hassel de Hoff thinks we sure are trying too hard to provoke Venezuela. Let's see what else here. Right, now the Wall Street Journal also said her leaving the country carries the risk of diminishing her influence at home. So I don't know if she's coming back to Venezuela. Are they gonna sneak her back into Venezuela after sneaking her out? If she was indeed snuck out, I would think probably she was. So now Ed Wiebe thinks they took her to safety, but is something happening soon there in Venezuela? Anyways, that's a really interesting question as to whether was she snuck out really just to get the peace prize or for some other reason? One of our viewers said, Dr. Loviage says, the fact that she left her country for an award, come on now, something bigger is coming. Covert data says her followers feel abandoned. Again, it seems a little odd that she would go through the risk of leaving the country only to get the Nobel Peace Prize. Especially if she wants to get snuck back in the country. Like, would you really do that just to get the Peace Prize? You'd go through all this risk? It seems strange to me. Let me see if I can get, it seems like it's sort of like an unrelated story, but it might be really related. Let me just show you something here. Just for example, I mean, here's this AP article. Venezuela's Machado absent from Nobel ceremony, but her travel to Oslo draws mixed reactions at home. Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado was absent today from the ceremony in Norway, in which she was supposed to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. But confirmation that she was traveling to Europe elicited mixed feelings in her country, where many backed her precisely because she had not left her homeland. Neither Machado nor her staff explained when and how she left Venezuela for Oslo. In an audio recording of a phone call published on the Nobel website, Machado said she wouldn't be able to arrive in time for the ceremony, but should be in Oslo. She has not been seen in public since January 9th, when she was briefly detained after joining supporters in an anti-government protest in Caracas. That's almost a year ago. Remember, she was supposed to run for president, and then Maduro didn't let her run. So there was another candidate who ran basically in her place, Edmundo Gonzalez, I think it was, but it was known that she was the leader of the opposition, and the evidence very, very strongly suggested that the opposition won the election convincingly, but then Maduro declared himself the winner and cracked down on protesters. Yeah, this is a really odd story. Edmundo Gonzalez, who was the person who ran for president in her place, he sought asylum in Spain last year after a Venezuelan court issued a warrant for his arrest. His son-in-law is among the hundreds of people who are in prison for what human rights organizations have determined to be political reasons. Independent experts backed by the UN, Venezuelan non-governmental organizations, and other groups have documented extensively brutal government repression throughout Maduro's presidency. It is unclear when and how Machado and Gonzalez could return to Venezuela. This is a very weird thing going on here. It just feels like something else is happening here. Again, I find it very hard to believe that she went to all this trouble to get snuck out of Venezuela simply to receive the Peace Prize. That doesn't really make much sense to me. But I don't know what's going on. It just seems strange. Sisi thinks they plan on taking out Maduro and then she will go back. Bodge CFY says something else is going on. She arrives in Oslo. Was she already there today? Did she already make it there? Here, look. Reuters has something about it. Hold on. Look, she arrives. Nobel laureate Machado arrives in Oslo hours after award ceremony. Oh, I think I have a video on this I can show you. Hold on. We'll show you the video. But the video is from a little earlier. But let me just show you this. There she is. Defies travel ban, arrives in Oslo. After more than a year mostly spent in hiding and in defiance of a decade-long travel ban, Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado arrived in Norway today. Well, I guess it's Thursday now there. Hours after a ceremony to award her the Nobel Peace Prize. She has been banned from leaving Venezuela since 2014. What's going on with this story? So confusing. Here, look. Nobel laureate Machado arrives in Oslo hours after award ceremony. She secretly left Venezuela for Oslo in defiance of a decade-long travel ban imposed by authorities in her home country, and after spending more than a year in hiding. The head of the Nobel Committee said, "I can confirm she has arrived in Oslo." Machado left Venezuela by boat on Tuesday and traveled to the Caribbean island of Curacao, from where she departed on a private plane for Norway, according to a person familiar with the matter. The source said her escape from the Venezuelan coast was handled by her security staff. It's very weird. Earlier, the Wall Street Journal said the U.S. got her out, but then they deleted that part of the article. The White House did not immediately respond to a request for comment on her travel to Curacao. I don't know what's going on with this story. This is all very strange, I think. Bringo thinks she's not going back. Well, would she go back if there was regime change? Let me show you that video, which I think might be from a day or two ago about that was with that article. Hold on. Hang on a second here. Show you that. Here's the Reuters video about this.
Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado was due to receive the Nobel Peace Prize in Oslo on Wednesday. However, the Nobel Institute says she'll not attend the award ceremony. Machado is the subject of a decade-long travel ban imposed by her home country. She has spent more than a year in hiding, and her current whereabouts are unknown. In 2024,
to repeat, this video is like a day old. So reportedly, she is now in Oslo. She's arrived in Oslo.
Was barred from running in the presidential election, despite having won the opposition's primary by a landslide. Later that year, she went into hiding after authorities expanded arrests of opposition figures following the disputed vote. Christopher Sabatini is a senior fellow for Latin America at Chatham House.
Prize has helped Maria Corina Machado in two very important ways. The first is it gave a strong signal of international validation to the democratic elections of 2024, or the undemocratic elections, but the democratic results that had been forgotten. The second thing that it did is it elevated Maria Corina Machado to a person that now they can hang, the international community and the world can hang their hopes on, their aspirations. This helps a lot. It sounds like it's sort of fabricated, but oftentimes democratic movements need a face. They need a story.
Machado was due to receive the award in a ceremony at Oslo City Hall, and the event is expected to go ahead even in her absence. When Machado won the prize in October, she dedicated it in part to Donald Trump, who has said he himself deserved the honor. The U.S. president is a fierce critic of Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro. He has alleged that Maduro has links to criminal gangs that pose a direct threat to U.S. national security, despite doubts raised by the U.S. intelligence community. However, the Venezuelan leader says Trump is trying to overthrow him to gain access to the country's vast oil reserves. Washington has ordered more than 20 military strikes in recent months against alleged truck trafficking vessels in the Caribbean and off Latin America's Pacific coast. Human rights groups and several Latin American countries have condemned the attacks as unlawful extrajudicial killings of civilians. Some demonstrators protested against Machado in Oslo on Tuesday, criticizing her support for the American actions. Venezuelan.
All right. So, anyways, I know it's technically a different story than the U.S. seizing the oil tanker. The timing of all this is very weird, though. And who knows, maybe it's connected in some way. Man. Magna Carta says no new wars. Puna Rebel says it is about oil. It's a big story. She just left Venezuela. Sounds like she got snuck out. Sneaked out? Let's see here. You know, I think there's some other reporting about this tanker. Oh, there's a video on this too. I got a new Reuters video on the tanker. U.S. seizes sanctioned oil tanker off coast of Venezuela. Hey, a quick thank you to Louis R. Louis R. thinks she left Curacao on flight XAFUF, which landed in Bangor, Maine, and then on to Oslo. That's what Louis R. thinks. I have no idea if that's true. So the flight that Louis R. thinks that this is the flight that brought her to Oslo from the U.S. I do not know if that's true. Maybe you're right, Louis. I don't know. That's at Flight Radar 24. Thanks, Matthew Felty. Yes, Matthew mentions that the U.S. has a $50 million award for Maduro, which we have talked about on this channel before. Reward offer increase of up to $50 million for information leading to arrest and conviction of Nicolás Maduro. That's from August 7th. Marco Rubio. Thanks to Ed Weeby for being a member. Thanks to Just Ben Wish 02 for being a member. Thank you, True Pain, for your support. Captain Jerry Donnelly for your support. Thank you, Captain Jerry Donnelly. Tenaj 1367. Who is wondering if this is like the Operation Ajax all over again, referring to a coup in Iran instigated by the U.S. in 1953. Thank you, Tenaj. Thank you, Leonette says, so sad we have become pirates. Thank you, Nice Try and Firejack. Firejack, I would have to check the specifics on. Firejack says there's been a lot of seizures of oil tankers in recent years by the U.S. I would have to check, and I would have to see that, if the circumstances are similar, if there's similar seizures or not. I do not know. I'd have to check it up. Thank you. Hold on a second here. So you can see Reuters updated their article a few minutes ago. U.S. seizes sanctioned oil tanker off coast of Venezuela. Okay, let's see what Reuters is reporting. The U.S. has seized a sanctioned oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela, a move that sent oil prices higher and sharply escalated tensions between Washington and Caracas. President Trump, when asked what would happen with the oil, said, we keep it, I guess. Oh, the Venezuelan government issued a statement and accused the U.S. of blatant theft and described the seizure as an act of international piracy. Let me see if I can grab the Venezuela statement. I think they post on Instagram. Where is it? It's something like the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or something. I had written it down before. Oh, I think I found, did I find it? Oh, I may have found it. Is this from today? I found it. I found it. This is the statement from Venezuela. Let's see if I can translate it. All right, here it is, guys. I have the statement here. I have the statement. One moment. I'm going to pull it up for you. Okay, here we go. Here is the statement. You can see this right there. It says, Venezuela denounces and rejects energetically what constitutes a robbery, I think a blatant robbery, and an act of international piracy announced in a public manner by the President of the United States, who confessed to the assault of an oil tanker on the Caribbean Sea. This is not the first time he admitted this, or that he admits this. Already in his 2024 campaign, he openly said that his target always has been to keep the Venezuelan oil without paying any, I don't know what contraprestación is. Any compensation in return? Yeah, payment in return, basically. All right. Making clear that the policy of aggression against our country responds to a deliberate plan of, is that like robbing us of our riches, of our energy riches, energy wealth? Wow. Despojar is loot. This new criminal act adds to the robbery of, is it Citgo? Important asset of the strategic lineage of all of Venezuelans. And I'm going to have to look up that word. Snatched through judicial fraudulent mechanisms and I don't know what is it al-marjan? Is that outside of or to the edge of? Outside of any rule or norm. La humanidad está humanity is I don't know what that is. Despertando. Oh, humanity is waking up and fighting against the abuses, the imperialistic abuses of the North. As has been demonstrated in numerous and simultaneous demonstrations of protests in distinct states of the United States and cities of Europe. Then the last part of it says, I don't even think you can see it here. The bottom says, the Venezuelan people also give, is that like thorough or strong demonstration in the streets of Venezuela to defend the peace of our country. Anyways, I probably did sort of not a great job translating that, but you get the basic idea of it. But they call this a blatant robbery and an act of international piracy, announced publicly by the President of the United States, who confessed to an assault on a oil tanker on the Caribbean Sea. So that's the official statement they posted on their Instagram. And that was posted when? Oops, sorry. Why is it doing that? Somehow I've activated the breaking news thing. That was posted about an hour ago, it looks like. About an hour ago. So there you go. We got you the statement. Well, the Reuters article mentioned the statement. Hold on, I'll take some comments in a second. I was just reading the Reuters article, but they mentioned the statement. And then, the Venezuelan government said it would defend its sovereignty, national resources, and national dignity with absolute determination and denounced the seizure of the tanker before international bodies. I don't know if I saw that part. Did they post again about this? Was there another post by the... Hold on. Was there another post on Instagram by them? Let's see. I don't see it. Anyways, hold on. Ooh, wait a second. The Reuters says this was the oil tanker called the Skipper. It was believed to have been seized early Wednesday. The incident was the first known action against an oil tanker since Trump ordered a massive military buildup in the region. The Skipper left Venezuela's main oil point of Jose between December 4th and 5th after loading about 1.1 million barrels of Venezuela's Mary heavy crude, according to satellite info analyzed by tankertrackers.com and international shipping data from the Venezuelan state oil company PDVSA. Okay. By the way, I mean, West Texas Intermediate crude costs about $60 a barrel. Brent crude costs $63 a barrel. Now, I believe they're selling this at a discount. But that's a fair amount of money value in that on that ship if it's 1.1 million barrels of oil. Venezuela exported more than 900,000 barrels per day of oil last month, the third highest monthly average so far. Even as Washington increased pressure on Maduro, the U.S. has not previously moved to interfere with oil flows. Venezuela has had to deeply discount its crude to its main buyer, China, due to growing competition with sanctioned oil from Russia and Iran. This expert said, one expert, Roy Johnston, said to Reuters, this is yet another geopolitical sanctions headwind hammering spot supply availability. Seizing this tanker further inflames those prompt supply concerns, but also doesn't immediately change the situation fundamentally because these barrels were already going to be floating around for a while. Maduro has alleged that the U.S. military buildup is aimed at overthrowing him and gaining control over the OPEC nation's vast oil reserves. As I'm sure most of you know, since early September, President Trump's administration has carried out more than 20 strikes against suspected drug vessels in the Caribbean and Pacific, killing more than 80 people. Here, by the way, is this video that went along with this Reuters article. Let me show you this. Is this it right here? That's the Corina Machado one. Hold on.
Venezuelan opposition leader.
We want the other video. We need the other video. 1 second. Oh, I think I have it right here. Here's the other video.
President Donald Trump said on Wednesday the U.S. has seized an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela. The move raised oil prices and is likely to further inflame tensions between Washington and Caracas.
As you probably know, we've just seized a tanker on the coast of Venezuela, large tanker, very large. Largest one ever seized, actually. And other things are happening.
Attorney General Pam Bondi said the tanker had been used to transport sanctioned oil from Venezuela and Iran. The seizure could signal new and intensifying efforts to go after Venezuela's oil, the country's main source of revenue. The Venezuelan government did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Trump has ordered a massive U.S. military buildup in the region, including an aircraft carrier, fighter jets, and tens of thousands of troops. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro has alleged that the U.S. military buildup is aimed at overthrowing him and gaining control of the OPEC nation's vast oil reserves. Since early September, the Trump administration has carried out more than 20 strikes against suspected drug vessels in the Caribbean and Pacific, killing more than 80 people. Experts say the strikes may be illegal, since there has been little to no proof made public that the boats are carrying drugs, or that it was necessary to blow them out of the water rather than stop them, seize their cargo, and question those on board.
Muted. I'm muted. I'm sorry. What I was saying is things seem to be ramping up in and near Venezuela. Wow. I'm going to take some comments from you guys. This is the video that Attorney General Pam Bondi posted of the incident. And let me read some of your comments here. Liam Fuzzy Bear thinks Trump put U.S. into war and Republicans don't care. One of our viewers asked if this was going to become a ground invasion. Sidewalk Connoisseur thinks these videos do not put the USA in a good light. We've had a couple of voters say, I voted for this. Michael TTH says, amazing we haven't been doing this more often. RJ for Freedom says this could be Trump's Bay of Pigs. Ventura Highway says piracy on the high seas. The Sugaro says we're just practicing on Venezuela. One of our viewers said, I voted not for this. WFT Jet thinks this is another 80-20 issue for Trump. This, as we were just saying, reportedly this ship had over 1 million barrels of oil in it. I don't know where the U.S. is going to take it. Hey, thanks, True Pain. True Pain says that Maria Corina Machado is in Oslo and waved from the Grand Hotel. Thank you, True Pain. Oh, yes, I do see her waving from the Grand Hotel in Oslo. You are correct. You are correct. Wonder if I can get you a picture of her in Oslo after having arrived there. Hang on. But I just saw one online. But I don't know if I have the rights to one. Anyways, she is in Oslo. Having been apparently snuck out of Venezuela. AP says Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado makes first public appearance in 11 months, hours after Nobel ceremony. In Oslo, having apparently been snuck out of the country. A day before this ship was seized. I don't know if there's a connection. Let me mention, there's some other reporting on this we haven't even talked about that I want to mention as well. Okay, the New York Times says U.S. officials said they expected additional seizures in the coming weeks as parts of the administration's efforts to weaken Mr. Maduro's government by undermining its oil market. Wow. Hold on a second here. This is from the New York Times. New report I just saw from them. I think it's new. Let me just check. I posted something that they had reported earlier. Yes. So the New York Times says U.S. officials said they expected additional seizures of tankers. I assume it's of tankers, in the coming weeks as part of the administration's efforts to weaken Mr. Maduro's government by undermining its oil market. Wow. That's new reporting from the New York Times. So are we going to be seeing a bunch more of these guys? What's going to happen? We did a poll earlier, and most of you think we're going to. Wall Street says if they do that, might as well blockade the entire country. Hasselhoff says it's a blockade, which is war, basically. Why not is the theme, thinks that will bring their people together. Oh, you know what's interesting also? The New York Times reported that a federal judge, issued a seizure warrant for this ship around 2 weeks ago because of the ship's past activities smuggling Iranian oil. The Times also says that the ship may have been trying to conceal its whereabouts by broadcasting false location data. I don't know if that's true. The Times also points out that Venezuela's economy is hugely dependent on oil. Hugely. Look, as I said before, this is one ship. What I don't know is, something natural to ask is the goal from the is this the beginning of some sort of campaign to basically prevent the selling of oil. You know, are we going to see more of these in the coming weeks? And is the idea that ships won't even want to carry this oil? Sidewalk Connoisseur says, what happens if Venezuela starts putting armed troops on oil tankers to deter these seizures? Larry Martinez says, a December surprise, perhaps? Lithrone says it's potentially a huge deal. Flight RC Log says, this is the U.S. military. They are trained to fight other military. This undermines our servicemen and women. SMH oil is up, by the way. By the way, thanks to Jewish Pickles, our member, and Sevenfold, our member, and Jerry Kovacs, thank you, Jerry. Fred Flintstone gave 20 people memberships. That's so nice of you, Fred. Make sure you thank Fred or somebody else if they give you a gift membership or a gift subscription. Thanks, Tom Charles, our member. Also, thanks, Penolta, for the bits, and Oxytropus on Twitch, and CC on Twitch. Also, a shout out to our subscribers on Twitch, like Wall Street and Shaggy and Mudmore and Barcodable and Pretty Boy Floyd, Mr. Bigley Uncredible, CC, The Sugaro, and others. Thanks to our Facebook subscribers too, like Robert Rial II, Chuck Mosca, Christy Claft, LT, Diane Allworth. Thanks to Julie Shields for the Facebook stars. Thanks, Julie. Yeah, this feels like it could be a super huge deal if it's the start of some big campaign. Thanks also Amy Cluck for the Facebook stars. Kevin Groves says, what next is my first thought? Let's see here. Thanks also to our YouTube members. Really appreciate it. I'm going to see if there's any other reporting I can find on this. But yeah, I mean, a couple outlets are saying that they're expecting more of these to happen. Maybe more are happening. Remember, originally the U.S. struck one alleged drug boat, and now it's over 20 have been struck. Hang on, I got to open the chat window again. But it's a really big deal if the U.S. is going to try to prevent Venezuela from selling its oil. Zilch thinks that a blockade would be a situation provoking or justifying war. Who owns the tanker? I don't know who owns the tanker. Colby Man thinks we do now. Chief Hung says America runs the waters. Pretty Boy Floyd says Trump enforces sanctions, everyone loses their mind. Mario HP says Venezuela is weak. They're not doing anything. Bob O'Bear thinks this will push other countries to buy from Russia. You know, Politico had reported that the ship was going to Cuba. Although I saw some other reports saying that much of this ends up in China and sometimes, but it goes somewhere else first. So both could be true. Politico reported that this ship was not commercially trackable originally and probably had its automatic identification system turned off. Oh, also, okay, this is interesting. Oh, hold on. I might be able to find something about this ship. Supposedly it's on the Treasury Department's OFAC specially designated nationals list. You would know how to go through and find all this. Oh, sanctions list search. Type vessel. Name skipper. I'm doing a search right now to see if I can find the listing for it. No, nothing came up. Politico said that this ship is registered to Triton Navigation, which is a corporation registered in the Marshall Islands. And they say that the Department of the Treasury called this company that owns the ship one of the companies critical to the oil smuggling network supporting Iran's Hezbollah. Politico says that this could put pressure on shippers to not carry Venezuelan oil, which could, in theory, tighten global oil supplies. Interesting. So the thing about Iran is, remember that Attorney General Bondi said that this ship, claimed that this ship in the past had carried, Venezuelan and Iranian oil. Again, she said the oil tanker had been sanctioned by the U.S. due to its involvement in an illicit oil shipping network supporting foreign terrorist organizations. This crude oil tanker had been used to transport sanctioned oil from Venezuela and Iran, she claims. Lays Ford says the U.S. are pirates now. Adrienne says, ill-gotten gain will be ill-spent. Jamie Lazarus says, crazy stuff, man, crazy. I guess to me this doesn't feel like a one-off. It feels like this is part of something else. I don't know exactly where this all fits in. But again, multiple outlets are claiming that this very well could be, there might be more of these coming. Lithrone thinks it's nuts. DeFranch says, who would have thought we'd turn pirates overnight? This ship is called the Skipper, again, reportedly. And the Skipper, according to marinetraffic.com, a marine tracking and shipping analytics provider, I believe it is. Marinetraffic.com. You can go there and track the ship, but they say that as of 2 minutes ago, this ship is moving underway using its engine, traveling to the northeast at 9.5 knots. Right there. That's Venezuela. You can see this is off the coast of Venezuela. There's Venezuela. See Venezuela. Right there. But you could go to marinetraffic.com and track the ship, the Skipper. Oh, by the way, if for what it's worth, the New York Times is also reporting that this ship has faked its location before and frequently carried oil from countries under U.S. sanctions. And it has made multiple trips recently to Iran and Venezuela. That's all according to the New York Times. But someone might say, well, why now? Then why all of a sudden? Take the ship now? Hey, the Washington Post has an article. Let's see what they're saying. User thinks they have watched this ship for months. I just saw this. Hold on a second. Hang on. So this is the Washington Post article. Let's see if they have anything different. U.S. forces seized an oil tanker near the Venezuelan coastline. A significant escalation in the U.S. pressure campaign against President Maduro and his country's oil-dependent economy, guys. The country's oil-dependent economy. Don't forget that. Maybe while I'm looking at this, I'll make this small. You can look at it in the corner. Put it right over here. We told you Pam Bondi said U.S. Coast Guard, FBI, and Homeland Security executed a seizure warrant for a crude oil tanker used to transport oil from Venezuela and Iran in defiance of sanctions. The oil tanker had been sanctioned by the United States due to its involvement in an illicit shipping network supporting foreign terrorist organizations, she said. Trump said today this vessel was very large, the largest one ever seized, actually. He said, other things are happening. You'll be seeing that later, and you'll be talking about that later with some other people. One person familiar with the seizure told the Washington Post that the tanker appeared to be carrying Venezuelan oil to Cuba. See that? was trying to shrink this here. I can only shrink it so much. The legal authority for the seizure was not clear. Washington has imposed sanctions on Venezuela and its state-owned oil company. Several administrations, including Trump's, have also sanctioned tankers alleging to be transporting illegal oil exports from countries under sanctions. Depending on what legal justification they use to seize the vessel, it could create a lot of problems for the regime, a person familiar with the seizure said. The person said the seizure could have a big financial impact on the Maduro regime. The seizure adds a new tactic to the Trump administration's months-long military campaign in waters near Venezuela. You know that they've been blowing up alleged drug boats. The Pentagon has dispatched 11 warships, some scores of aircraft, and thousands of personnel to the Caribbean Sea and Pacific Ocean in what it has described as an anti-drug trafficking mission. The buildup appears to be a pressure campaign to unseat Maduro, says the Washington Post, who Trump has alleged directs traffickers and criminals to assault the U.S. Venezuela boasts the world's largest proven oil reserves, but mismanagement, decrepit equipment, and U.S.-led sanctions have sharply limited output. The country is exporting a daily average of about 900,000 barrels, up from last year, but far below the 2.4 million barrels it exported daily in 2008. Its largest customers are China and the United States, which in July reissued a license to the U.S. energy giant Chevron to resume operations in Venezuela. In 2020, I talked about this earlier, in 2020, during the first Trump administration, the United States seized 1.1 million barrels of Iranian oil from 4 vessels that were headed to Venezuela, but they didn't seize the ships. Venezuelan oil provides a lifeline for Cuba, which, like Venezuela, is subject to heavy U.S. sanctions. I mean, is that also an aspect of what's going on here? Trying to weaken the Cuban regime? The communist island nation has suffered extensive blackouts this year because of limited fuel and aging infrastructure. But only a tiny percentage of Venezuelan oil goes to Cuba, said an expert. Okay. If the Trump administration continues seizing oil tankers in a systematic way, targeting those destined for China, that could significantly limit the willingness of black market fleets to go to Venezuela, dealing a major economic blow to Maduro. That would have a tremendous impact, the expert Minaldi said. But Maduro has maintained his grip on power through far worse economic circumstances, including during the 2020 coronavirus pandemic, when Venezuelan oil production plummeted to less than half of what it is today with much lower oil prices. This expert, Francisco Minaldi, said, "Is this going to be the worst economic pressure Maduro has felt? No, it will not be. That would require a massive blockade of Venezuelan exports," Minaldi said. "The economic pressure that Maduro felt in that period is unlikely to ever be felt, and he survived that." By the way, I'm not saying this will happen, but is there ever a world in which the U.S. ends up like attacking one of these oil tankers like it attacked the drug boats and just blowing it up to really dissuade other ones from going? I don't know. I'm not saying it's going to happen. It'd be a huge deal, obviously. But I don't know. The seizure of the oil tanker was announced hours after opposition leader Maria Corina Machado missed the Oslo ceremony to collect her Nobel Peace Prize, but she ended up showing up hours later. She has shown up in Oslo. Oh, by the way, Damnian says that would destroy the oil. Well, I guess maybe if you're going to do that, you would attack an empty one. Right, because people are saying if it's full of oil, it would create an environmental disaster. But what if the U.S. tried to attack a ship that was going to pick up oil in Venezuela? Lonely Reject says, "I doubt the U.S. would risk an ecological disaster." Anyways, that again, that article from the Post we just read, it's interesting. There's just this question of where is this going? And is this meant to be is this the start of some sort of, in effect, blockade on Maduro selling his oil, which is extremely important to the economy of Venezuela? How about we're going to do a quick poll, one more quick poll. Will Maduro leave office during the Trump administration? There you go. Yes or no? In any way leaving office. So it's up to you. Will he be out of office or not? Let's see what you guys have to say. Oops, this is not playing. Let's play the video. Here is what as we play the video, it's just a striking video. I've seen it like 30 times, and every time I see it, it's striking every time I see it. Knowing those are American forces. Today, well, Wednesday, depending on where you are. It's today where I am. All right, so here is what you guys said. Over there on YouTube, 61% of you think that Maduro will leave office during the Trump administration. How about on Twitch? Jaw Sauce thinks Maduro is a dead man walking. Over on Twitch, they're kind of split. 55% will say he will leave during the Trump administration. 42% say no. Oopsie. Angel Safai says American forces are awesome. Nav thinks it's a diversion from the Epstein files. Sunshine says it's embarrassing for me to see U.S. resources used to harass another country for their natural resources. There's another interesting question. I mean, one of our viewers said something like, this doesn't look good for the U.S. It is an interesting question of how this kind of video is perceived around the world and what it makes people think of the U.S. fairly or unfairly around the world. One of our viewers, Up, says, it looks fantastic from where I'm sitting. The Knight's Palace thinks it's perceived as don't F with the United States. Florida Q says it makes us look weak. By the way, thanks SMCon for subscribing on Twitch. Hold on a second here. I have a feeling we're going to be hearing a lot more about this. And this kind of thing. I just have a feeling. I can't imagine this is a one-off. What is this here? Hold on a second here. We'll take a few more comments here from people. Karen Moore thinks this would have happened 4 years ago if Biden was not in office. Trump has been laying the groundwork for years. She says Trump says immigrants are bad, especially from countries south of our border. Then months or longer of how terrible Maduro is, he's been saying, and how many people die from drugs. Now he's starting on Colombia. This has nothing to do with immigration or drugs, Karen Moore thinks, purely power grabbing. We have seen this before in history. Thanks, Karen, for writing in. Michael Lauzone thinks this is terrorism. Thanks, Michael, for writing in. Oh, thanks for voting in our poll, by the way. Oopsie. I messed up here. Thanks for voting in our poll. All right. Let me just see if I have any updated reporting for you. I'm expecting more to come out about this. There hasn't been a lot of, I mean, that Pam Bondi X post is really the only official statement from the government, which is not very detailed. I haven't seen like a big statement from the State Department yet or something. I would think we might get more at some point. Oh, guys, I have an update from AP. AP says half of the seized ship's oil is tied to a Cuban importer. The seized tanker was identified as the skipper by a U.S. official who was not authorized to comment publicly. The ship departed Venezuela around December 2nd. Now, this says 2 million barrels. The ship departed Venezuela around December 2nd with about 2 million barrels of heavy crude, roughly half of it belonging to a Cuban state-run oil importer, according to documents from the state-owned company, Petróleos de Venezuela. The documents were, so AP got these documents somehow. The skipper was previously known, the ship was previously known as the MT Adisa, according to ship tracking data. The Adisa was sanctioned by the U.S. in 2022 over accusations of belonging to a sophisticated network of shadow tankers that smuggled crude oil on behalf of Iran's Revolutionary Guard and Lebanon's Hezbollah militant group. The network was reportedly run by a Switzerland-based Ukrainian oil trader. Superdunk says, all of that yummy, yummy oil. Awesome Mopotamus says, yay, we're oil pirates. C. Serwin says, stolen oil on a stolen boat. Oh, here's a picture of Marina. There is the Venezuelan opposition leader who apparently was snuck out of Venezuela. And there's a picture of her at the Grand Hotel in Oslo, Norway, early Thursday, so a short time ago. Again, it's the whole thing is very strange because would she really risk escaping and getting caught escaping just to go to the award ceremony? And if she wanted to get out I mean, wouldn't she just want to get out? I can't, to me, it doesn't really make sense that she would leave just for the award ceremony. And as we've been saying, you know, if you're an opposition leader, it can hurt your credibility possibly to leave. So it's all very strange. And let me show you that photo though. Wall Street Journal was saying before they thought maybe her leaving would allow more strong action by the U.S. now that she's out of the country. Oh, here's the picture. Where's the picture? What happened here? Why can't I find the picture? Hang on. Oh, I got it. Sorry. I got it. I think that's not it. That's not it. One moment. Let me get that picture of her. Download. Try this again. I think it worked. Give it 1 second. One moment. One moment here. I'm getting this photo for you. I told you I'd show you the photo of her if I saw it. Oh, I don't think they have it there. Maybe I can't download it. Is that the idea? Oh, sorry. I was the wrong page. Boy, I'm doing a really bad job of showing you this photo. I'm telling you, I'm going to get this photo for you. Hang on. Hang on, guys. There's the article. Sorry. This is taking way too long. I think it's actually working. I got the photo. Here is the photo of Maria Corina Machado in Oslo, Norway. I guess hours ago, sometime in the last few hours. There she is from AP. There is the picture. As I said, I have a hard time believing they're going to smuggle her back in Venezuela. Denise Horton says the rightful leader. I feel like this story isn't being talked about enough. It's very intriguing what's going on with that. And as I said before, not to repeat myself, the Wall Street Journal originally said in their article tonight, but I think they changed this, but I did cut and paste it from their article. The Wall Street Journal had said in their article tonight, they said that the oil tanker seizure came just hours, they said, after the U.S. sneaked her out on a boat, an escape that potentially gave the Trump administration an opening to take more aggressive action against the Maduro regime. They originally said the U.S. snuck her out. But now the article says the tanker got seized hours after Maria Corina Machado left the country on a boat. So the article no longer says the U.S. snuck her out, but it still says an escape that potentially gave the Trump administration an opening to take more aggressive action against the Maduro regime. Then they have a whole report, the Wall Street Journal, they have a whole article, you can go over there and check it out if you want, on reporting about her leaving the country the day on Tuesday. She had basically been hiding all year, avoiding arrest in Venezuela. By the way, the Wall Street Journal about her leaving Venezuela is based on U.S. officials they talked to. And it says that her allies worked to keep the trip from becoming public. So anyways, again, this seems like a barcode says this is important news. It's just very interesting that she has left the country. Right, she's the opposition leader. Basically, when people voted in the election, what was it, last year, whenever it was, that the evidence suggested that the opposition won by a lot, but then Maduro said he won. She wasn't allowed to run, but basically she was the candidate. She wasn't the official candidate, but it was understood she was the head of the opposition. Hema says, did she sneak out on an oil tanker? So I don't know what to make of all this. It's just very interesting. Justin D. Winters says, very fishy. The reporting on this, I mean, most of the reporting is like, oh, she made it to collect her prize. It's like, well, but the bigger story is that she left the country. Regardless of her making the award ceremony or being there to collect her prize. Yeah, we did cover that. We were covering the election when it happened. Buffalo Woman remembers that. All right, so anyways, this is a whole other thing. I'm not inferring anything. It just seems, it just feels like there's more to that story than it's like, hey, sneak me out so I can collect my prize. It just feels like there's more than that. All right. Well, let's see if I have any other updates for you here. Yeah, the Wall Street Journal says she was disguised in a wig and that she slipped through military checkpoints. You can look it up on the Wall Street Journal. They said she was wearing a wig and she was in disguise. The Wall Street Journal says in this article that they posted about her escape, they say the Trump administration was aware of the escape operation, but the extent of the Trump administration's involvement was unclear. Anyways, you can look it up in the Wall Street Journal. If you want, which I think is probably going to be paywalled there, but if you have access to it, you can read it there. GTG says, sounds like a CIA operation. I mean, to be honest, I would be shocked if there was a big operation to have her leave and the U.S. wasn't involved. Joe Soul mentions that AZ Intel posted a video. I cannot show the video. I don't have the rights to it. AZ Intel and Faytux Network posted a video of her in Oslo. I'll post the link in the chat so you can see the video of her in Oslo. Patricia Gray says, I bet it feels amazing not to be in hiding. Although if you're her, you're probably, you very well might be concerned that no matter where in the world you are, someone might come after you. So I don't know that she feels like perfectly secure. I mean, obviously, I'm sure she's not like, I'm out of there, great. I mean, her goal is to have a change of regime in the country and to have the country be democratic. All right, guys, I think it's time. I think it's time. Hey, thanks, Jay Duce. Jay Duce 10 for your support. I really appreciate it. Jay Duce 10. That's really nice of you. And also, Daryl Nelson from Seinfeld. Thanks for the memberships. That's very nice of you. And also KWNY Upstate. Very much appreciate that. And also David Rowe 6816, who says, is the Monroe Doctrine being enacted? And 400 Yards, thanks for being a member. Also Martin Ging, thanks for your support. And Robert Kosinski, our member. And Peanut Butter Jelly for your support. Also, C. Johnson, who says, this is just a diversion. The real play is Greenland. Thanks, Gen Xer, also, and Mosh Miri 51. Very much appreciate that. And Sevenfold and Jewish Pickles are members. I did want to mention, some of our viewers have mentioned the Monroe Doctrine. Wikipedia, the Monroe Doctrine is a United States foreign policy position that opposes European colonialism in the Western Hemisphere. It holds that any intervention in the political affairs of the Americas by foreign powers is a potentially hostile act against the United States. The doctrine was central to American grand strategy in the 20th century. President Monroe, James Monroe, first articulated the doctrine in 1823. Monroe asserted that further efforts by European powers to control or influence sovereign states in the U.S. in the region, in the Americas, would be viewed as a threat to U.S. security. It's interesting, though. I don't know that if Trump wants to assert greater control over countries in the Americas like Venezuela. I mean, the way this reads is the Monroe Doctrine is more about keeping foreign powers out. But, I mean, that's not really Trump's or the Trump administration's focus with Venezuela. They claim it's about drugs, but you know, some people think it's more about regime change, but it doesn't really seem like, even if you think it's about regime change, it's not because, I mean, the people analysts I've seen who think it's more about regime change don't think it's regime change because Venezuela is just like a figurehead for some other country. I mean, obviously, Venezuela has positive relations with other countries that the U.S. might not be friendly with, but it seems like a bit different than Monroe Doctrine. It seems more like everything in the Americas we maintain tight control over, which is not exactly the same as other countries don't interfere with countries in the Americas. Do you see what I'm saying? Jay Recon thinks it's about natural resources. Anyways, though, I'm not an expert on the Monroe Doctrine, so I was just offering a way to look at it. Feel free to disagree with me. Hobo Snail says, thinking it's about drugs and not regime change is naive. The Critical Chris says he'll be the anti-war president. All right. I think, let me just make sure I don't have any other big things to report on this. I'm sure we'll be hearing more about this. in the coming days. There might even be other ships that are seized. No kind of press briefing or anything as to with answering questions about this or anything at this point. Maybe sometime in the future. ABC News says this kind of tanker can carry up to around 2 million barrels of oil. Oh, Kash Patel. I didn't even realize that Kash Patel posted about this too. I was showing you the post from Pam Bondi about this. Kash Patel said, today the FBI and our partners executed a seizure warrant for a crude oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela, used to transport sanctioned oil from Venezuela and Iran. Similar language than that Bondi used. That Bondi used. The tanker had been used in recent years in an illicit shipping network supporting foreign terrorist organizations. Proud of our great partners who executed the mission with us. DHS, Secretary Noem, Homeland Security, Coast Guard, Secretary of War, Pam Bondi, and many more. This administration's efforts to crush foreign terrorist organizations and cut off their resources will continue day and night. Gary Bain says Trump is flexing his power. Dean R. says warrant key word. Axios believes that the seizing of this ship is a dramatic escalation of the Trump administration's standoff with Venezuela. Something else that Axios points out, they say Cuba makes money by taking Venezuelan crude and selling it. So, I was talking about Cuba before. One of the reports said that this ship was heading to Cuba, I think Politico, and I was saying, could this be designed to hurt Cuba as well? And Axios said, one of their sources said, this is a twofer. We're going after Maduro's bank account and the Cubans that keep him in power. Axios says in the first term, the U.S. seized a tanker en route to Venezuela from Iran. Is that true? I don't know. Anyways. Oh, hold on a second here. So Marine Traffic actually posted about this. This is interesting. So marine traffic, which I showed you before, marinetraffic.com, it's like flight radar for ships, as one of our viewers said. Marine traffic is a ship tracking and maritime analytics provider. I want to get that right. But they had a post about the ship. I want to show you that. Hold on a second here. Give me a moment. I'll show you what they had to say. It's interesting. A ship tracking and maritime analytics provider, marinetraffic.com. So they posted and said, look at this from Marine Traffic. U.S. forces have seized an oil tanker believed to be the very VLCC. That's very large crude carriers that can carry around 2 million barrels of oil. The VLCC skipper, after satellite imagery showed she secretly loaded 1.1 million barrels of sanctioned Mary crude at Venezuela's Jose terminal. The vessel had been transmitting falsified AIS positions during the operation, a tactic increasingly used by dark fleet tankers tied to Venezuelan and Iranian trades. Marine traffic data shows the vessel has been sanctioned by OFAC since November 2022 and repeatedly linked to high-risk activity. Her cargo history includes multiple liftings from Venezuela and Iran, while operational risk signals show a 2-month AIS gap. I guess that's transmitting its location in Iranian waters. The vessel has also conducted high-risk and dark STS transfers in the Red Sea, Iranian, and Syrian zones, alongside multiple AIS spoofing events. Now, you could ask, though, if the U.S. knew this, why wait till now to seize it, if it was going to seize it? Now, somebody might claim, well, now they have all these resources in the region. So were they not near it with resources earlier? I don't know. The OFAC is the Office of Foreign Assets Control. That is the department of the U.S. Department of the Treasury, and they administer and enforce economic and trade sanctions based on U.S. foreign policy and national security goals. That's the OFAC. Anyways, that's what Marine Traffic posted about it, which was interesting. Read the freaking comics thinks most Venezuelans want the U.S. to kick their president out as he's a dictator, but this is about oil disguised as ousting the president and freedom, etc. All right, guys, I think it's time. This is a very interesting story. I think we've done what we came here to do, which is talk about the latest reporting and give you an update and read your comments about this quite striking U.S. seizure of an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela today. Wow. And one big question is this just the start? Are there going to be a bunch of these seizures? Is this some new campaign to starve Maduro of his oil revenue? I have no idea. But certainly quite striking. Did Trump post about this today? Let me see. Now, Trump posted about the state of Indiana an hour ago. He posted about his gold card. I didn't see him post about this. JTS, our viewer, thinks war is coming. Get ready, folks. So we will certainly keep an eye on this story. We'll have to see where this all goes, but lots of people saying this is a significant escalation in the pressure on the Maduro regime. And who knows? I don't know if part of this is just saying like, hey, look at our military. It gives it a chance to show off the military. Maybe there's an implied message here. They could come, Maduro, to wherever you're living and do the same thing to you. The helicopters could come for you. I don't know if that's part of the intended message. Maybe it is part of the intended message. All right, so certainly we will keep you up to date on this situation. But I really appreciate you guys. Oh, thanks to AZ Intel's dad, by the way. Thanks so much, AZ Intel's dad. That's really nice of you. So Dimitri thinks this is war. Yeah, people are saying, why do we do this? Again, I will refer to you again. I posted it on my X account. I will refer to you. We covered it earlier, but I know people come in and out of the stream. But I would refer to you, the only official statement I have seen from the U.S. government was a post on X by Pam Bondi and a very similar post by Kash Patel. That's all I've seen. And she says that this was a crude oil tanker that was used to transport sanctioned oil from Venezuela and Iran. And for multiple years, the oil tanker has been sanctioned by the U.S. Does that tell you why they're doing this now? No. It's been sanctioned for years. Did it just so happen to be done today by chance right off the coast of Venezuela? Doesn't say. So, yes, good question. Why exactly is this happening? I can't tell you. But it doesn't exactly say. I'm sure there's plenty of other ships that have been sanctioned too. So, we don't have a detailed accounting of all of this. Anyways, Wicked Switch says, too many layers in these related news items. I will certainly keep an eye on this. And if you want, subscribe, follow the channel. I normally don't do this with video. I don't even know the last time I did this. I don't know that I've ever done this with a video, but it's very rare. But this video, I've just had this video playing a lot of the stream because it's so striking to look at. Just to see this is the U.S. military. So I'm just having it playing in the background, basically. But anyways, if you want, subscribe, follow the channel, Agenda Free TV. And we cover all kinds of live breaking news without an agenda. And I would turn the notifications on for the channel. You never know when big news is going to happen, and I'll have to come back on the air. So if you want to get a notification whenever we go live, subscribe to our free notifications. We do them on Discord. The mods will post a link in the chat to the notifications. You can find the link to the free notifications on YouTube and Facebook in the description of this broadcast. But sign up for the notifications. You never know. Kanai Rose says, the audacity of it gets me. Hang on a moment here. Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? I can show you this. I didn't realize this was from her X account. Well, I want to be clear about this. If you want to see the video of Maria Corina Machado, one of our viewers mentioned she had posted it on X. You can see her. That's her on her X account. She says, Oslo, here I am. There she is. That's from her X account there. So you can go over there and check it out. That's her X. She posted that about an hour ago. Anyways, something else to keep an eye on too. But so thanks for mentioning that. So we'll keep an eye on this story. Who knows what's going to happen next in Venezuela? But I really appreciate you joining the stream and being here. Thanks for letting me read your comments and questions on the air, for sending me updates and letting me know what you're thinking. And we'll have to keep an eye on this whole situation. We were just talking about the drug boats a few days ago. Now this is happening. I will post updates on my X account when I'm not on the air. That is at Lookner on X. You can follow me over there for breaking news updates at Lookner. Also, another good, if you're on X, I would follow the channel because I always post there before we go live at Agenda Free TV on X, and I post updates about the channel there, so follow us over there. And huge thanks to our moderators who have been here. Really appreciate it. Our moderators are the reason that we can even have chat rooms on this channel and have people discuss stuff. So they're the ones keeping it under control. Thank you so much, moderators, people like Ruth over there on YouTube. Thank you, Ruth, and all of our other moderators who have been there. And over on Facebook, Kay Lowry Body, Paul Anderson, Margaret Riley, Shannon Davis Hughes, thank you. And Linda Belk, Larry, Misha on X, thanks so much for moderating over there. And our Twitch moderators, like LB Prairie Don, Mark and NC, Mark HNC, Matthew Kohai 3, and others. Huge thanks. Thanks to all of our moderators. Thanks so much to everybody who donated. So nice of you guys. That's what allows this channel to exist, is your support. I really appreciate it. If you ever want to donate, you can go to agendafree.tv, agendafree.tv. Huge thanks. I owe a couple people thank yous, by the way. Who Shot JR? Thanks for the bits on Twitch. Thanks, Frukar Toffine, for your support on Twitch. Very nice of you. Drogon915. Thanks for your nice note and for subscribing, Drogon. And Oxytropus as well. Did I get everybody else? I hope so. I think I did. Thanks so much for your support. We do have a chat on Discord. It's free. You can chat with other viewers when we're not on the air. Check out our Discord chat. The link to the chat is the same link as to the free notifications. So check out our Discord, our free Discord chat. Big thanks to our Discord moderators for all you do. Thanks so much, Discord moderators. And for those watching on YouTube, I would suggest turn on the YouTube notifications so you can find out, well, it's another good way to find out when we're live if you're watching on YouTube. To turn on the YouTube notifications, you need to subscribe to the channel and then click the notifications bell and choose all notifications. So subscribe, click the bell, and choose all notifications. If you're already subscribed, make sure you click the bell and choose all notifications. Oh, thanks, Crazy Cat Lady, for being a member for 24 months. Thanks so much, Crazy Cat Lady. Hey, huge thanks to our Twitch subscribers for supporting the channel, like Drogon and Daddy Dino and Wall Street and Shaggy and CC and Douthis. And Matthew Kohai 3. Thank you. And all of our other, G Slayer, and all of our other Twitch subscribers. Thank you so much for supporting and subscribing. Annie Cush as well. Facebook, all of our subscribers over there, like Robert Real II, Diane Allworth, Margaret Riley, Kay Lowry Body, Shannon Davis Hughes, Sharon Klassen Goslin, Jennifer Ellers, thank you for subscribing. Chuck Mosca, thank you. All of our other subscribers too, thank you. And our YouTube members, people like Pels Smith, Ken Lance, J.K. Sinar, Winding Road, Fat Wong, Eric Johnson, Critical Chris, Jewish Pickles, Evelyn in Maine, Crazy Cat Lady, UV Lightning, Gary Baines, Alabama Fan, Benny Hill, Springwood, and all of our other YouTube members. Thanks so much. Sorry I couldn't get to every comment, but I really appreciate people sharing their comments. Got to read a bunch of comments tonight, which is good. Now, OSINT NJ says, you said in your stream Pam Bondi was the only person in the government who announced this. Yes. So to be fair, President Trump very briefly talked about this, which I did mention. I just forgot about that. But that wasn't really a very detailed announcement. President Trump acknowledged this happened today, but he spoke about it very briefly. So in terms of any kind of detailed government announcement about this, the only thing I've seen in any degree of detail, which was not much, was from Pam Bondi in a very similar post from Kash Patel. But thanks for reminding me, OSINT NJ, that President Trump did comment on it, and I did show that and talk about it, but I just forgot about it. Okay. Thanks, Black Irish, for sharing the social media posts too. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Sorry. All right, I think we're wrapping it up. Who knows what's happening next? I don't know where all this is going in Venezuela. But I'll be keeping an eye on things. I would not be surprised if there's another seizure. But if there's another seizure, then it's a whole different thing, because then it becomes like, it seems like it starts to look like a campaign of seizures. All right, guys. That is it for now. Oh, I missed memberships. Shaf gave memberships. Thank you so much, Shaf, for the memberships. Thanks, everybody else, for watching. WFT Jet, Winding Road, Wickedest Witch, Taste Vim. Eric calls it an unapologetic act of war. Sandra Lee Hartfax for watching. Nancy Schneider. Thanks, Nancy, for your note and for watching. Brian Shy, thanks for watching. Give a couple other quick shout outs here. We Talking About Practice. Thanks for watching. TV Party. All right, guys. Set to chill. That is it for now. You've been watching our live coverage, a live update on the U.S. seizing an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela. We will certainly keep an eye out for more developments having to do with Venezuela. That's it for now. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you soon with more live breaking news coverage right here on Agenda Free TV.